Namaste to my friends from the CSR community and all my beloved development practitioners. I am Dr. Basavaraju R Shreshta and bringing you another episode of GRAAM CSR VOCAL for you. I am coming with another interesting and a very special person in this episode, but let me tell about him a little later. At GRAAM, although we are a policy think and act tank, mostly we engage with governments in conducting large-scale evaluations and impact assessment studies and policy engagement, but we consider it as a responsibility to equally work and engage with corporate organizations. As they are not only producers of goods and services, but they are the contributors to the social good. We believe that their engagement not just brings financial resources to the sector, but most importantly, an intellectual resource. In terms of it could be innovation they bring in, the new perspectives they contribute, technological solutions, but also the professionalism to implement social projects, not just with compassion, but more with collaboration. Friends, as we all know, we are celebrating a decade of CSR. CSR came into effect as a legislation in 2014. And in the last 10 years, we have experimented many models, understood what works, got to know the limitations of each other. What I mean, each other is NGOs and corporates we work together, and also have a strong understanding of their strengths too. I personally think the next decade is to complement with each other's strength and as well as cohesively work to achieve the national development goals. We bring this CSR VOCAL series to share best practices, hear experts' insights, and also have some larger policy level discussions. So with this, I take the privilege of introducing the volunteer man. You might think, what is so special when all of us in CSR sector involve or engage with a voluntary spirit? But there is a special reason to call him a voluntary man. I'm sure he'll also talk about those experiences, or why probably he takes the pride in calling himself as a volunteer man in his conversation. But let me introduce Mr. Deepak Prabhu Matti. Deepak started as an IT professional 29 years ago, whose journey into the development and social sector was sparked by an opportunity to evaluate a project proposal from an orphanage on behalf of a Cognizant Foundation. His active involvement in Cognizant's outreach volunteering program eventually led him to become the global head of volunteering. Inspired by the desire to make a difference whenever there is an opportunity, Deepak transitioned into a CSR lead of the Cognizant Foundation. As the CEO of Cognizant Foundation, Deepak Prabhu Matti spearheads several impactful projects offering innovative solutions to the persistent problems. Mr. Deepak, it's our privilege to welcome you for this series of CSR VOCAL, and thank you so much for providing your time.
Thank you, Dr. Basavaraju. Good morning to you and all others watching. It is a privilege to associate with GRAAM for this occasion.
Thank you, Deepak. Let me begin with this question. Cognizant as a company is known for giving back to society as not only imperative to the company's growth, but also as an earnest reflection of the value it stands for. Can you please elaborate on the key activities, initiatives of the foundation and how it connected to the larger development goals of the country? You can even connect with SDGs.
Sure. Cognizant Foundation was set up in India in the year 2005 as an independent corporate entity, a Section 8 not-for-profit company. Its aim was to elevate communities towards a brighter tomorrow. So at Cognizant Foundation India, we believe in creating a world that thrives on inclusion. That means that our programs are centered around three aspects: empowering persons with disability, promoting holistic child development, and fostering gender equality. So we also try to select projects that match the three tenets of inclusion, technology, and collaboration. So, which means that any project that we select has to have some flavor of all these three tenets of inclusion, technology, and collaboration. Our initiatives primarily focus on the following program themes. There are two of them. One is Health for All, which is to enhance access to quality healthcare, and Future for All, which is to create a better tomorrow through education and skilling. And in these two programs, for example, in Health for All, our core focus is to support timely eye care through the Sight for All program, promote maternal and child health through the Care for All program, and promote and provide comprehensive early intervention and rehabilitation services to children with special needs through the Support for All program. So under Health for All, we have three programs: Sight for All, Care for All, and Support for All. And in the Future for All program theme, our core focus is to empower underserved sections through STEAM-based education, STEM and arts, and supporting educators in enhancing teaching capabilities through what we call as the STEAM for All program. Then we have a program Excellence for All, which is to accelerate access to higher education through scholarship and mentoring. And also we have a Tech for All program that provides a tech-oriented skilling program for women and persons with disability. So under Future for All, we have STEAM for All, Excellence for All, and the Tech for All. So this is our strategy in supporting very specific causes using the program themes of Health for All and Future for All.
How do you connect this with some of the national sustainable development goals? Is it in compliant or cohesion with those goals?
Yes. So education, healthcare, ensuring higher incomes are all the SDGs that are linked with our Health for All and Future for All programs.
Wonderful. Deepak, I must ask about this question, this particular program of yours. I came across an initiative of the Foundation on skilling persons with disability. Could you tell me why you think the skilling and employment for person with disability matters, while many of our current policies and programs are focused largely on the welfare aspects of person with disability, and you are thinking of skilling them when they are still thinking of welfare, your foundation is thinking of skilling them. Can you take us through your experience and also some outcomes of this program? Why this important is?
Sure. So, according to the 2011 census, only about 36% of persons with disability in India had meaningful employment. More recent estimates suggest that this number has largely remained unchanged or relatively unchanged in the years since. Also, high-skilled jobs remain largely inaccessible to persons with disabilities due to lack of education or training opportunities tailored to their needs. When we started a scholarship program for visually impaired students in partnership with an NGO about 6-7 years ago, we were seeing how they were completing their graduation with flying colors but couldn't get employed, and therefore resorted to joining a post-graduation degree program. Now, we all appreciate their learning zeal, but we also realize that they resorted to this because they felt that they have escaped the employability problem for another 2 years. Okay. So let me, continue studying more, and hopefully the problem will get resolved after 2 years. So sometimes it is wishful thinking, sometimes they're just delaying the problem, kind of a thing. It's like in the cities, the government builds a flyover to bypass a junction, but then the traffic jam basically moves to the next junction, right? So something like this was happening. So along with a partner, we co-created what we called as the Education, Mobility and Employability Training Program that combines scholarship grants to enable them to pursue their graduation studies, with a grant for assistive devices, a digital device like a laptop, as well as specific skill development training program during their graduation studies. So, which means that over the course of the 3 or 4 years, they are continuously upskilled to be able to get placed in a job when they complete graduation, right? So now with more experience, we are realizing that the skill development needs to start much earlier, maybe in their high school years. So we are running a pilot program for visually impaired students who are in their 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th grade. Because access to, for example, digital technologies, digital literacy is often overshadowed because there are other needs for, say, the visually impaired student that needs to be met. So that's one point. Second, in my interactions with persons with disability, I've seen a very unprecedented urge to become financially independent and give confidence to the families that they can take care of themselves, because the parents and the other caregivers in the family have to dedicate literally almost their whole time and effort to take care of the persons with disability. So there is an urge within them that they want to become independent, they want to take care of themselves, they want to be financially independent. So at Cognizant Foundation, for example, during the last financial year 23-24, we have trained about 950 persons with disability in IT, ITS skilling, and about 420 persons with disability were trained in employability skilling. Now, in all these cases, it's not only about training. We have seen upwards of 75% of them getting employed. Right? That's the proof of the pudding. So, which means that there has to be the support to pursue their education, as well as the employability training, and then the placement opportunities provided to them. However, all this is fine, but a lot more to be done. It does require NGOs and civil society organizations to create the awareness among corporations on how best to utilize the talent of persons with disability. And we have seen amazing success where the specific recruitment team in the corporation, along with some of the corporations who have dedicated diversity and inclusion heads, who have the mandate to identify job roles where persons with disabilities are best fit. This is not at all done out of compassion, but purely on fitment to business requirements, right? And there's nothing like relaxing the criteria because we are engaging or we are employing a person with disability. Business being business, they demand that any candidate perform to their optimal potential based on the business needs. But a lot more awareness also needs to be created, and awareness is being done correctly, but a lot more can be done.
I think this actually reminds me about a case study we have developed actually. So this case study is about an organization in Mysuru. In fact, they employ persons with hearing impairment in their company. In fact, it is again, it's not just because of the some sympathy or empathy they need to employ them, because it's more an opportunity for that industry. If a normal or a person who can hear want to work in that organization, want to go to the shop floor with an hearing plug, because there's a noise in the shop floor, it becomes an advantage for that company to hire a person with hearing impairment, because they don't even need to provide a ear plug. Number one. Second thing is there's no attrition also, because a normal person or a person with not hearing impairment problem would eventually leave that job over the period because of the noisy environment, etc. But if the hearing impaired person engages, so there's no problem of attrition also. And many times, if the proper HR audit is done, HR planning is done, so you can see person with disability, how they can be more able to do that specific job. They're not disabled to do all the work. They are disabled in some areas, but not in every other aspects actually. That's a wonderful point you communicated. I think this reminded me about the case study we worked on. And also, when I was why I was personally very interested to ask this question, because when I was doing my field work in Andhra and Telangana, I was talking to a person in the self-help group of person with disability, and he was doing a accountant job for the self-help groups. It was not high income job, but in the rural area he was doing that accountant job and earning his livelihood. And when I asked him, like, why are you engaged with this job when it is paying very meager money, not so remunerative? Why do you want to engage and contribute these services? what the statement he said is really, I can't forget that, it still haunts in my mind. He said, "Sir, before I was doing this job, people in my community calling me a lame. He was locomotive disabled actually. They didn't even know my name. They didn't even bother to know my name. But now they call me as an accountant, the person providing accounting services to the self-help groups in the villages, and they know my name. That's the largest, probably the difference I could ask for from my own fellow villagers in my village actually. So, personally, I feel the persons with disability through skilling and employability and employment programs get that kind of an identity, that kind of the respect and recognition to their abilities, I would say. I really appreciate the work you are doing. I'm happy to kind of see more work in this area.
Thank you.
Coming to the next thing, I know you since probably more than a decade now, and you have a desire to make a difference wherever there is an opportunity and whatever you want to do. We collected since the time of Walk Within, the rural immersion walk we conducted at GRAAM, and also through our capacity building programs like CSR Meal and other things. We sincerely appreciate your initiatives. You pioneered at Cognizant Foundation on volunteering engagement particularly. Tell us why it is important for the corporation to engage employees in CSR. Because in the larger discourse, some say the business of business is to do business. Why do you want to take away the productive time of your employees from whatever they are supposed to do and put them into CSR, volunteering, social activities, etc.? What is your take on it, and tell us about your experience?
It's true that Milton Friedman said that the business of business is business. However, in 2019, the Business Roundtable, which is a grouping of about 200 CEOs, released a new statement on the purpose of a corporation, which was signed by 181 CEOs of global companies. They committed to lead their companies for the benefit of all stakeholders: customers, employees, suppliers, communities, and shareholders. So I want to stress the word communities in this signed statement. You would hardly find any organization not having an employee volunteering program. In fact, I would hesitate to call it as an employee engagement program, as it can be seen as an activity championed by HR, where employees are engaged in fun, cultural, sports, or team bonding kind of an activity. Employee volunteering is a serious proposition. And I'm glad that in many companies it is championed by the CSR or the ESG team, and it is viewed as a nice extension of their CSR or ESG initiatives. So, in my opinion, it is important for corporates to have well-defined employee volunteering programs, as it aligns the employees' personal values with the company's values. And we have seen, for example, in Cognizant, we did a study about 4 or 5 years back. It has increased the retention of the employee in the organization. But more importantly, it enables the employee to offer their time, talent, and technology for the benefit of the community. Now, we all know that in the corporate workforce today, about more than 70% of the workforce is the millennials and the Gen Z. And amidst them, there is a strong preference for purpose-driven work, right? So, even if they are working in an IT company or in a BPO or so on, they often want to know the work I'm doing helps whom, right? So that is from a business sense, right? But they also realize that they have certain time, certain technology learning that they have, and the talent that comes because of their education, because of their experience, and they are always constantly looking for how I can share it with the outside world. So this generation, particularly the millennials and the Gen Z generation, are more likely to engage in volunteering activities that align with their values. So it is really a business imperative for an organization to have a strong employee volunteering program.
So there's a business imperative to it actually. But whether you compensate, or they compensate their volunteering engagement, like whenever they come and work with an NGO or our NGO partner, etc. Whether it affects the business or whether you compensate with something else for the time and effort.
Some corporations have a day off or a few days off in a year. Some companies do not have, right? So it is up to the corporation to figure out their sweet spot. But having said that, I think the fundamental aspect is the employee doing certain volunteering activity to support some cause from their heart? Is it coming from within? Is it because the company is giving one day off, okay, I will spend some time? That's not the right approach, right? So fundamentally, the employee should believe that spending their time, talent and technology and supporting certain cause is important for them, and they want to do it. The other things are the operational aspects of whether their time is given by the company as a time off or not. But in my experience, employees are intelligent, right? They know how to figure out their business responsibilities and social responsibilities. They will not let one come in the way of the other. They will figure it out, right? It's left to them. But the key aspect is the organization should enable, in some sense, support them, bring up causes that align to them, and so.
In fact, my another connected question with this, one is, while it is good to involve employees in the CSR activities, this has also kind of become a limitation in terms of not extending or expanding CSR programs to other probably distant geographies or the needful areas. Because in many times, some of the companies I consult with also very clearly say we prefer to have our CSR activities in and around our manufacturing unit or the company or our employee base, because we want them to engage or want them to involve in the CSR program. Well, this thought is good, but it is also making CSRs to kind of only consider that area, and the cities like Bengaluru or Mumbai or it is Gurgaon are kind of got an over investment when it comes to the CSR resources. How can we balance this actually?
Okay, so yes, you are right. There are certain segments of corporations, particularly maybe manufacturing, who want to be seen as creating doing good in order to create goodwill. But a large part of the corporations working in the other sector may not tend to do that. Right? Okay. Having said that, at Cognizant Foundation, we consciously tend to stay away from supporting projects in and around the tier 1 cities. Like, for example, at a recent board meeting about 6 months ago, when we put up a proposal for implementing a career guidance program in the state of Karnataka to benefit students in their high school 9th and 10th grade, we proposed multiple options. One is the whole state of Karnataka. Okay, we don't want to venture into such a large-scale program, particularly with an organization with whom we may have worked to a small extent in the past, and considering it's a large number of high schools and students and all that. Then the second option was, okay, can we break Karnataka into certain educational divisions? So the education department, for its administrative purposes, has divided Karnataka into 4 educational divisions: Belagavi to the northwest, Kalaburgi to the northeast, and Mysore and Bangalore. So we were then asked, what are some of the socio-economic indicators in these 4 divisions? Obviously, we know a little bit about Bangalore, we know a little bit about Mysore, but we may not be knowing much about a Kalaburgi or a Belagavi division, right? And then the natural tendency was to gravitate towards supporting the Belagavi and the Kalaburgi educational division. Now, in that context, they asked, has any other corporate supported this program in those two educational divisions? The answer was one corporate had supported the Kalaburgi educational division for the last 3 years, whereas Belagavi has not seen a career guidance program delivered to its high school students. So then the natural choice was, let's do Belagavi, right? Obviously, that's a great suggestion. So the proposal was approved for Belagavi division. But having said that, I was a little, not disappointed, but I was thinking, okay, now if it was Bangalore Educational Division, we could have a lot of volunteers delivering guest talks, engaging with the, even if it was a Mysore to some extent, because we have some employees in Mysore, Mangalore, and so on. Right, so both did not work out. Yes, the possibility of volunteers' involvement is a little diminished, but hopefully through the Zoom and such online medium, we should be able to deliver some sessions. So the importance is not given to can my employees engage in the project. The importance is given to where the need is the highest, and then see how you can fit in a volunteering engagement, employee volunteering.
I think, as there is a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. I'm sure Cognizant will invent some new mechanism to engage volunteers. Probably that may also enhance the capability of children there. May be it technology, using technology to communicate or get trained, etc. So it can also be a new horizon to learn, I believe. Yes. Coming to the whole discourse of now after this 10 years, also probably the corporates and the authorities want to ensure that we are more in line with the sustainable development goals, etc. So the CSR, ESG conversation and dialogues are happening. The discourse is happening very largely in different domains. Whether and how it is important, my question to you, whether we should move from simple CSR to ESG, or there just a name change? There is a continuous change in the nomenclatures, concepts, framework in the last 10 years. We are continuously learning and implementing and improving. What preparations are probably a completely competency development the CSR team should take, should go through to be kind of prepared for the new ecosystem or new systems of ESG?
Fundamentally, ESG is environmental social governance. The S within ESG is where CSR fits in. Actually, CSR is a subset of the S in the ESG. The other subset of the S is to measure how organizations are developing employee-friendly workplace practices, policies. How many men versus women are they also hiring persons with disability, transgender, so that it's an inclusive organization. So that way there is that. So CSR fits in within the S within the ESG. E is about how the organization is running its operations in an environmentally friendly way, and G is about governance in terms of whether the board of the company has sufficient women on its board, and what are the governance practices? Are there policies and procedures that are documented and practiced and so on, right? So that way there's not so much of a correlation between CSR and ESG, except that CSR fits in as a subset within ESG. Yeah, I mean, ESG has brought out to many nomenclature, concepts, reporting frameworks, and so on. So, first of all, I think CSR teams should assess if their CSR initiatives are carried out by implementing organizations who have employee-friendly workplace and practices and policies within the implementing organization. Are the implementing organizations having suitable learning and development programs for its team members? Are the implementing organizations having suitable policies and, more importantly, training programs on code of ethics, anti-corruption, prevention of sexual harassment, etc. Right? So, coming to CSR teams itself, for example, when we are implementing skilling initiative, we need to apply thought on whether we are inadvertently causing forced migration or is it a need-based migration. So that way, whether our initiatives are responsible to create some unintended consequence has to be thought through. Right? As they say, learning never ends. So resonating with the same, CSR teams needs to understand program management in social impact projects. How do we work collaboratively with the implementing organizations? How we can be in their shoes, make periodic visits, learn about impact assessment ourselves, because the tendency is to rely on third parties, which is fine because we also need a third party view, but we also in some sense need to be able to do impact assessment, monitoring, evaluation, accountability and learning. You, GRAAM, yourself run a meal program. So these programs are very useful for CSR teams to improve their capabilities. And over and above all these skills required to oversee and manage core CSR programs, it is important for CSR teams to take up ESG 101 courses to begin with. Reporting practices are quite complex and time consuming. Some companies publish their annual integrated report in the form of business responsibility and sustainability report, in short called as BRSR. So there is a whole lot of capability upskilling that needs to happen if one were to transition from a pure CSR role to a role in the ESG team.
Yeah, thank you for that information and as well as much elaborated sharing of your kind of thoughts about that transition. Tell us about your ITC. What I mean by ITC is inclusion, technology, and collaboration. You mentioned that very briefly at the outset, that your programs are kind of guided by these thoughts and words. But what are the actual thoughts behind these words when you wanted to coin this ITC to guide your overall CSR strategy as well as CSR program? And how do you bring these values into practice in your CSR program? Because many times all of us will have large, heavy value statements put on our strategy or put on our website, but percolation of those values into practice seldom happens. But how do you kind of think, make sure that these are translated into action?
Okay. In simple terms, inclusion, technology, and collaboration, if you visualize them as three circles, this is our ikigai, right? So we are building a better future by creating a sustainable ecosystem at the intersection of inclusion, technology, and collaboration. That means that we believe this is our sweet spot. So therefore, we tend to value and support projects that promote inclusion, has an element of technology, and collaborates with NGOs and the government system as well, right? Because many a times we tend to partner with NGOs and do not worry about how the program will be taken forward once we exit from the project after a predetermined period of time. Much said about CSR. CSR spending is minuscule when compared to the government spend in the service sector that they deliver, right? So that way, the collaboration with the NGOs and the government is important. So therefore, in Health for All, for example, we have supported projects that promote research. So there is a research going on in MGM Hospital, Chennai, for helping cardiac surgeons to enable artificial intelligence and machine learning to predict the course of treatment or the surgery that they have to perform by giving them a host of data points and guidance on the best method based on the condition. We have used the indigenous technology products, so in the space of eye care or in maternal and child health. Some of these indigenous products have proven to be 5 times cost effective and 5 times better features, right? So it is a 25x sort of a advantage to the specific project. And of course, usage of tech platforms, in the maybe 10 years ago, many NGOs who were implementing projects on the ground used to use a lot of paper pen method to track the beneficiaries, the progress, and so on. Now we see the tab-based, mobile-based tech platforms to track project parameters. In future, for example, we have supported projects that enable tech platform development and technology products, right, that enable learning. So, for example, math learning, we support a program where children attend the math class. In the predefined period, the math teacher conducts the class for 30 or 40 minutes. But separately, during the week, they get access to an online software, some of which have adaptive learning capabilities. So the software adapts to the current learning levels of the child and then slowly pushes and encourages the child to go higher and higher in their learning curriculum. Right. So the tech platform development, we funded a development of a platform called Blimey over 2 years, and it was basically developed as a platform for visually impaired learners to acquire digital literacy.
Okay.
And that platform has seen about 60,000 users over the last 2 years since it was developed. So that way, that technology angle comes in. And we also encourage skilling programs that have an element of technology and technology-related learning. So, no doubt, digital literacy is a common topic in any skilling program. But over and above that, are there technology-related jobs? For example, we support a program that trains 1,000 women in PCB assembly operations, so that they then are placed in mobile phone assembly line units, electronics and electronics manufacturing units, and so on. So that way, there's a strong technology component. I talked about inclusion in the sense supporting digital learning of visually impaired learners. And all our programs are executed in collaboration with partners, right? So they have been there, done that. They know the community. They can work with the government stakeholders. So, except barring a few scholarships, all our programs are executed in collaboration with NGOs. And in many cases, with the active involvement of the government stakeholders. When I say involvement, it starts right in the program design itself, wherein there is constant dialogue with the government stakeholders, whether this will work, can we try this out, and so on. And once the project is approved and it is getting implemented, there are periodic reviews done with the government stakeholders, right? Of course, we have also seen instances how the government stakeholders were extremely upset at the way the program was running, right? And we had to do course correction or close the project in some cases and so on. But 8 out of 10 times there has been active involvement of the government stakeholders. So that way the collaboration.
Very happy to know that. But some of these tech platform, especially the digital literacy one for visually impaired students you mentioned, all these are available for in the public domain. It's only for the beneficiaries of your CSR program.
No. So what our partner does is they connect with various organizations who are supporting visually impaired learners, right? And then work through those organizations to identify visually impaired learners and then get them onto the platform. If you're asking me, is it available on a website, on an app? No, it's not. But it is the learning is made possible by our partner connecting with various organizations who are working with visually impaired learners.
Wonderful. I'll be happy to know more about that and take it forward with
Sure.
our disability network organizations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you. And finally, in fact, again, to talk about the CSR decade, we have completed 1 decade of the CSR legislation in India. And in this connection, what are the developments in the sector you want to appreciate? You want to kind of say, oh, these are the good developments that has happened because of the legislation, and the directions the CSR investment and partnership should take. How can we bring more synergy between government, corporate, and civil society organization, NGOs, in complementing their strengths? Not just as CSR gives money to NGOs or government give directions to CSR about what to do, but how it can be more, a synergic partnership between all these organizations in terms of complementing their strength.
Right. I think I'll sort of mix both the questions in my answer. I'll start with saying that CSR is now an integral part of the business strategy because of the active engagement from the board, the senior leadership teams, and the employee volunteers. So when I say employee volunteers, and I forgot this point, it is not about engaging them in certain specific volunteering activities, right? Where, for example, Cognizant employees volunteered to create tactile cards so that visually impaired learners in the higher primary school are actually using them in the class, right? That's one. But the second aspect is because CSR team is normally a very thin team and probably present in 1 or 2 locations where, but then the projects are happening all across India in some 6-7 states and so on. We can't be everywhere. So we rely on employee volunteers to, hey, can you make that visit to that vision center? Can you report back on the activities that are happening? Can you speak to the stakeholders? Can you speak to the staff members? Check the records that are maintained in the center and so on. There are volunteers who agree to do that. Right? So fundamentally, because it's a part of the business strategy, like I said, multiple people at multiple levels are involved. It has also made organizations build and nurture dedicated capabilities for executing CSR. Right? What otherwise maybe 5-7 years ago was somebody multitasking from a HR, corporate communication, legal, corporate affairs, and so on. Now, almost all organizations have dedicated CSR teams. So, on the other hand, CSR talent also has improved significantly because there is cross-pollination of people from implementing organizations to CSR teams and vice versa. Right? There are many people from the corporate world who have joined well-established NGOs and taken the NGOs forward, while people from the NGOs have joined corporate CSR teams. So now, also in the last maybe 2-3 years, CSR is also now executed largely in a planned manner with a longer-term tenure in mind. It's no more 1 year and goodbye. I only have this much money kind of thing. But it may be 1 year to begin with because we don't know each other, we don't know how the project will shape up and so on. But then very quickly it becomes a 2-year, 3-year or 3+1 year kind of a project. Because the intent is to create change at a systemic level, right? Where possible in our small way. Therefore, the in this evolution, the attention is shifting towards impact. We still collect input, activities, output, but we are also trying to look at what is the impact. So I want to mention 3 specific aspects on the direction question that you asked. How do we see it in the future in terms of the CSR investment and partnerships? So I'll just mention 3 aspects. One is development sectors professionals, both from the NGOs as well as from CSR teams. They're continuously sharing their knowledge in various forums, right? This is, for example, maybe we have one forum, but there are many forums that are happening. where that knowledge sharing is happening. For example, at Cognizant Foundation, we are drafting a white paper to share our experience in implementing avoidable blindness program that's under our Sight for All within the Health for All initiative. Right? It will cover aspects that needs to be addressed when funding such a program. The idea is to encourage other organizations to support the cause of avoidable blindness. So that way, ecosystem strengthening and capacity building are areas that will need some more investment. Right? And when I say investment, per se, couple of my team members are spending part-time effort in this cause, right? I mean, ultimately we may only publish a white paper, right? But then we also have a duty, obligation to promote the content of that white paper widely among other organizations, so that instead of the 20 organizations supporting the cause of avoidable blindness, hopefully 30, 40 organizations will. So that's one. Second is we also catalyze innovation. CSR catalyzes innovation rather than only fund programs, because the idea is CSR spending, like I said, is very minuscule when compared to the government's social service expenditure, right? So in this context, it is important to support prototypes. Yesterday we were talking to a well-established healthcare organization which does pioneering work in the area of eye care. And they were talking about how there is a universal eye screening program that they want to kick off with some pilot. And for that pilot, they need a particular equipment called as arc light. And that cost, I believe, about 4,000 Indian rupees. But then if you talk about universal rollout, one state, multiple states, and so on, even that 4,000 will be very prohibitive. So they are working with a very popular India-based and Bangalore-based technology company to develop a version of that, which is again more powerful in features, and it could be available at a cost of about 500 rupees. So which means 8 times cost reduction with better features, right? Okay. So we are thinking of the possibility of supporting that prototype development and a pilot implementation, right? So that way, I said we support research. Innovative ideas need to be supported. Basically, prototypes, innovative ideas, research, pilot programs are required to be supported to show the art of possibilities. What is possible, right? So that way, if those programs can show the art of possibilities, that can be showcased to the government for large-scale implementation, right? We won't have the money muscle to fund large-scale implementation. The money is with the government, but they may be looking for data points, experiences, pilot approaches, and so on. That's where I strongly talk about catalyzing innovation. And regarding the other question you asked, and I want to tie in here with respect to how do we bring more synergy between government, corporate, CSOs. I mean, we all talk about this, but I feel at a basic level, there has to be a dialogue, right? We have to sit across the table, have these virtual calls where the government, corporate and CSOs, NGOs are talking with each other to identify a specific cause, a specific geography. So that way, in some sense, collaboration is a scale multiplier. Only through collaborations, the scale can be multiplied. Like, for example, the CSR funding providing for a pilot implementation, a small scale implementation, showcasing to the government for a large scale implementation. So thanks to various NGOs, we are supporting multiple program implementation with active suggestions and reviews from the stakeholders in the government system. So that way, broadly, sharing knowledge, capability building. Second, innovation. And third is the collaboration, which is very key.
Thank you. In fact, we at GRAAM keep saying this. I personally, in various forums, have said this. If you compare the overall CSR budget put together vis-a-vis the government budget, it's just 0.1%, not even 1%. It's 0.1% of the government's social sector expenditures and the government's budget put together actually what we have for vis-a-vis the corporate social responsibility budget. With this money, it's an important money for us actually, because as you said, this money should be utilized for innovation. This money should be used for model developments, prototype development, so that a large-scale development foundation or a government, for that matter, can take it up and scale it up and probably roll it out across the state or across the country. That's what I think the CSR money need to contribute. But unfortunately, many times, many corporates expect proof of concept rather than daring to establish proof of concept. So they say, like, whether it is worked somewhere, we don't want to experiment, we don't want to innovate, can give us the workable and demonstrated and tested model rather than taking, because my view is the whole strength of companies taking the risk. We want strength of corporates actually. The mindset they come from is taking the news risk, extending the boundaries, challenging the stereotypes, etc., and innovate something new. I think that spirit, I'm very happy to see what we advocating are being practiced, are probably demonstrated at your institution, Cognizant Foundation. So it was really wonderful having this conversation with you, Deepak. In this last 1 hour, we have kind of covered various aspects. You told us about importance of keeping values while shaping or strategizing CSR, and how the investment required to be long-term and what impact that will bring in if you think your CSR activities and projects for long-term instead of being short-sighted, and as well as inclusive CSR, how you should bring in inclusivity in whatever you do, and more importantly, partnership, the importance of partnership between a corporate, a civil society organization, and the government are planning the CSR activity, and volunteering engagement, how it adds value, not just kind of doing some service to the society, but how it adds value to the corporate themselves by kind of encouraging their people to volunteer for the social responsibility projects. And also we discussed about future of CSR and what the collaboration should be, and the innovation should be the way forward of the CSR investment. Thank you so much for all these thoughts. We'll certainly circle back probably after a couple of years to kind of learn more from the experiences, the practical experiences of Cognizant Foundation in terms of implementing all these programs. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Basavaraju. It was a pleasure to share my thoughts with you, and thanks to all your team members at GRAAM for supporting this session.
Thank you. Thank you.